her first orgasm described in wonderful detail. With her legs now comfortably spread wide, enough for him to properly perform his doorbell-twitching orgasm and orgasmic duties, he began softly fondling her clit a little with a few of his wet, warm fingers. In doing so, delicately, he noticed how smooth her clit was. He then made a slow and gentle move, a tad south, to feel around her moist, wet valley of pink, juicy love. He noticed it too was very smooth on the surface. She must have shaved recently. Very nice, he thought to himself. With it so smooth, he could easily apply either his saliva or a combination of her pink juice as lubricant to slip and slide her doorbell and her right into an orgasmic state of mind-blowing ecstasy within a very short period of time. Now, do note, while it might take time for a woman's body to warm up to the enjoyment of making love with her man, 30 to 40 minutes, the actual act of helping her achieve an orgasm shouldn't take any longer than 8 to 12 minutes when done right. Granted, if she's had several orgasms in the past week or so, and then went without orgasms for several days, maybe even a week or two, there's the slight chance, if done properly, that she could have an orgasm in under 5 minutes of clitoral stimulation when done right. Imagine that scene. Honey, would you like to come tonight? Yes. Well, you know the drill. Get naked and assume the position. Yes, baby. Then, within 5 to 7 minutes of her getting in position, and him too, literally, she could come in that quick amount of time. And if there's been some time gap between her last orgasm, she could come fast and hard. And maybe even twice. As she's coming, she'll come once, and then she'll come twice. Oh, baby, I came so hard this time, and fast, too. How many times did you come in that session just now? Twice. Now, while slowly sliding his middle finger down the line of her cherry box of moist, wet love, he did notice just that. Her cherry box was getting very wet. In all that anticipated excitement and coming arousal, this was a good sign that she was warming up nicely to come in his arms in just a few minutes. One thing he did before he began working on her doorbell to help her come was to place his entire palm on her cherry box and hold it there for a few minutes, maybe a few seconds even, while still making out with her, kissing her, tongue dancing. While this was a brief palming maneuver, it was an important one in addition to feeling the inside of her thighs before spending so much time down there on one specific part of her body, which was her doorbell. Spending just a little time in and around her doorbell in this manner sends a signal to all the body parts in this region that something is about to happen down there. That he didn't want those body parts to feel somewhat neglected due to all the attention her clit was receiving. It's kind of like, saying hello to everyone when you walk into a room before you spend more time talking to just one person for the next 10 minutes or so. Everyone feels you acknowledged them, their presence, when you first walked in, and in doing so, they had no problem with you spending a little more time with one person in particular for that set period of time. It's interesting how certain body parts call out for attention like that, if neglected, isn't it? One thing you never do is focus too much on one specific body part during the act of making love, because other parts, subconsciously, will call out for them to be touched as well. That's why our Romeo is a big proponent for multitasking during the course of any session of making love, and all over her body, such as doing many things to her at once. not just doing one or two things at a time, but many things. But hey, more on that later. So, knowing these steps to help her come rather quickly, he began to fondle her little doorbell. He then touched her moist, wet cherry box of moist, wet love, felt her inner thighs, then back to her cherry box, and then back to her clit. All this touching activity while kissing her slowly and with focused sensual concentration is a good example of the art of multitasking. While kissing her and keeping her mind focused on his lips, his tongue, their breathing, their closeness, she could also feel his hand and fingers gently fondling around her pussy, legs, and clit. All this happening at once was really sending her more into a state of pleasure and euphoric ecstasy that she had never experienced before. By him taking things slowly, she could record in her own mind practically every step he took, every move, every touch, every tingle, every fondle, every kiss, every time their bodies touched, every time their tongues danced between their lips, to the point where he now began to focus on ringing her doorbell until she came. When he initially started, through some telepathic means, he could actually sense her doorbell had not been touched by someone else, except by her in her own times of personal playfulness, in a very long time, if ever. This was deduced by the very slight shaking and nervousness of her legs, arms, body, and the breathing pattern that she exhibited. While very subtle, he picked up on these cues. Because of his acute awareness, he chose, again, to take things very slowly at first, build trust, and then begin to speed things up when she was on board and ready to come. In a roundabout way, she noticed he was taking things slowly and was thankful for his kindfulness. Wow, this is so exciting, she thought to herself amidst all that was going on. I can feel my whole body is entirely in his hands, and he is taking such good care of me, making me feel so good. My pleasure really does come first to him. He's going so slowly. His hands are warm. His free arm is under me, while my head is on the pillow, looking up at him and kissing him. He's holding me tightly so as not to let me go or make me feel alone in this moment of vulnerability. His whole body is especially warm. My left hand clutches my breast while I experience all this. And while I'm feeling a little nervous about this first-time experience with him, his calmness and slow pace seems to help me to enjoy the entire process. While I used to take care of myself with my own hand, this time around, I'm free to enjoy the entire process 100%. No work on my part. He's doing it all. I'm just going to lay here and enjoy everything he's doing to me. It's like he knows me inside and out, and yet this is my first time with him. He is so good to me. I'm loving this so much. Okay, back to enjoying this and not thinking so much right now. I'm about to come. Soon. At this early stage, he took a slow but quick break from kissing her, only to pull his hand up towards his mouth so he could put some of his own body fluid from his mouth on it. This helped lubricate her cute little doorbell so it was nice and wet and slippery. When he did this, he gently pulled her face close to his chest, with his left arm underneath her neck and pillow, so she could continue kissing him, this time on his neck. It helped that he leaned down somewhat while lubricating his hand a little. He didn't want to break the momentum of her engaging her lips on some part of his body. So his neck was the perfect spot for him to help her continue her facial lip kissing enjoyment. Then, as he placed his fingers back down on her little doorbell to start the process of elevating her to orgasm, he gladly returned to his regular kissing duties. Lips and tongues, exchanging kisses and dancing, moist and locked into position until she came. She was excited for him to return and kiss her. She would remain lip-locked, breathing in and out through their noses so as to not disconnect their lips from each other until she reached orgasm, to which, at that time, she would disengage, breathe in deeply, and begin the openly and verbally expressions pretty loudly when she started to come. Lip-locked and sensing a warmness coming over them, his hand began to twitch her doorbell back and forth in a very slow and steady way when he began to increase this motion. The most important aspect of making her come via clitoral stimulation is to maintain these three things. Number 1, her doorbell must remain lubricated at all times. Never let it get dry. Number 2, maintain 1 or 2 fingers square down on the doorbell gently so it's bobbing back and forth, not too hard, as it is this part of her sexual organ where the orgasm stems from, not from the lips of her moist, wet cherry box. And number 3, do not stray, stop, talk to her, but remain completely still and silent during the entire process. Stay the course, guys, and maintain the back and forth movement on her clit until she comes. It's as simple as that. A man's hand and forearm micro-tired or fatigued performing this very repetitive function while waiting for her to come. He might think, I can sense she's almost there. Just a few more minutes. Any man's minor discomfort or fatigue during this time will guarantee her extreme pleasure and orgasmic euphoria. Building up one's stamina and muscle strength in this area is key for any man to deliver her ongoing pleasure every time. Practice makes perfect in this case. Also remember how important it was that a man sleep with one woman 100 times. That's where he gets to learn about her body and how she comes. All good information when it comes to pleasing her at all times. You know, by now, our princess of the night is about to enter a state of bodily experience to which she will be coming soon. As long as her man continues a very steady, lubricated, and consistent clit-twitching motion back and forth, she can focus on her coming. At about the 7 to 10 minute mark, she has crossed over the line of trusting him lovingly and is now feeling freer to let her body go and embrace the soon-to-be orgasmic experience. Still lip-locked with her man, she starts to feel it. While this is happening, our Romeo is paying close attention to her body. Does he notice any tiny, sudden body twitching movements about her? If he does, he should stay the course and remain consistent with his clitoral doorbell ringing movements as mentioned earlier. He's kissing her, holding her, bobbing her doorbell, twitching her clit steadily, to the point where she breaks free from his lips, quickly gasps a breath of air, grabs a bedsheet, or him, and screams out loud, "Yes, yes, yes! Baby, I'm coming, yeah, oh!" At this exact point in time, when she is coming and loudly exclaiming her ultimate joy, he picks her up with his left arm and pulls her closer and tightly against his body. He then slides his left knee under her body to pick her up with it. His right hand continues to slowly push the orgasmic envelope that sends her over the edge a little more by a few more seconds until she has had quite enough and actually gestures to, oh no, pull his hand away from her doorbell as now it's wildly sensitive down there. Left alone, it will still throb. You did your job. She has come. He can, however, lift her up onto his left leg again so as to lift her off the bed some and into his arms and closer to his very warm body. Curled up now in the fetal position and safe in his strong arms, she cuddles in ecstasy. This is also a good time for him to grab the bed sheets and cover her, keeping her warm underneath. Now, he gives her time to come down on her own from the heavenly experience she just had. She lays there, eyes closed, catching her breath, warm in his embrace, and taking in all that just happened to her. He says nothing and keeps quiet, allowing her to have no interruptions to her thought process as her mind and her body take it all in. If he says anything, he whispers softly in her ear in that deep, sexy voice she loves so much. I got you. Him saying this sends those same warm electric shivers throughout her body, again as if to magnify the exultation of her coming. He took her somewhere she's probably never been before, and only he can take her there. Granted, she will be taken there again, only by him, but for now, he gives her time to quietly contemplate this profound experience on her own and wrapped up in his arms, safe and warm. When she's ready, she'll look up at him. He smiles and says to her in a soft, sexy voice again, "So, how do you feel?" She replied, "I cannot move. I don't want to move. What you did to me was mind-blowing. I'm still recovering in a good way. I just want to lay here in your arms for a while." Hey, it's okay. Take your time. I got you. They kissed gently on the lips as he continued to hold her. He'll keep holding her until she has completely regained herself and lays back down on the bed, still cuddled under the covers with him. At this point, it's all right to ask, "So, what happened? How did you feel about what happened to you? Have you ever experienced an orgasm like that before?" I have never felt this good in so long or ever. How did you know how to do what you just did to me? I mean, no one, not even myself, has ever been able to push me to that level of deep orgasmic pleasure. Well, it's just a natural thing for me to do for you. You know, make you come like that. I'm glad you loved it. Oh yeah, I'm still taking it all in. As she reached her hand to touch his face and gratefully kiss him. Did you like how I picked you up and took you into my arms at the end and sort of wrapped my body around you as you were coming and again when you were coming down from your orgasm? Yes, I think that helped increase the pleasure I was feeling overall. You know, I like how you felt free to just scream out loud in the moment. I thought it was important for me to give you that sort of permission, so to speak, to yell anything that came to you. You know, be you. Be natural. Be real. Open up. Realize it and just go for it. I support you 100% in doing all of that. I know. I did kind of scream out loud. I hope nobody heard me, she said blushingly. Nah, there's no one here. And these are double pane windows, so they're very thick. No one outside would ever hear you. Now, if we open the window, that's another story. But that aside, expressing yourself at any volume is safe with me, encouraged, and well received. I like it when you let it all out. I bet it's a nice release for you. Although, try to remember my ear is right by your mouth. Okay? Yeah, as he said jokingly. I do want to keep my hearing. So if you do scream, it's okay, but just scream in that direction, honey. You know what I'm saying? As he pointed in the direction away from his head. They both laughed together and smiled. She looked up at him, and her eyes read, "Thank you."